Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Oh, yes, it is. Welcome to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo, Jennifer Horn back together again. Happy 4th of July. First of all, celebrating our nation's birthday. We love that, Ken Russo.
Hear, hear.
We love it. All right. And
God bless America.
God bless America is right. You know what? We have a lot of problems, but we can fix. We can fix problems. Just take some time and some will and maybe some hard times. But you know what? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm very happy to say that our friend Joan M from Los Angeles is back in studio with us this week. Joan, welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to hear what the subject is.
Oh, we are talking gold.
Back
we're talking
by popular
silver.
demand.
She's back by popular
Yes.
demand. That's right. Now, we are going to talk today about the advantages of gold, the advantages of silver, some of the disadvantages of each. And we are going to underscore that gold and silver, it's a real currency that you can use if stuff gets real. You know, if things start to go downhill fast and you actually need to use your gold and silver to buy goods and services. Well, that is absolutely a possibility. We're going to go through all of that today. But first,
You're kidding me.
I know, here he comes. Let's roll him out right now. Former President Richard Nixon.
Happy 4th of July. Give me a whiskey.
You know, I really do enjoy that flashing red, white, and blue necklace around your neck, sir. That looks amazing.
No more convertibility of the dollar into gold. God damn it.
Whoa. All right, President Nixon. Holy smokes.
Don't kick checkers.
Don't kick the dog.
Hey,
Don't
Joan.
kick checkers.
All right, so President Nixon, it's 1971. Back in the day, you said, my beaker set just broke. Maybe I'll try an experiment with our dollar.
Yeah.
Lo and behold,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, well, a lot of printing, a lot of borrowing, a lot of military, intervention, a lot of fraud, a lot of corruption, a lot of shenanigans. That's why Joan's here.
That's right.
She's going to tell us about some of the shenanigans, but,
She's our shenanigans police officer, actually.
these are just more reasons why people need to say to themselves, well, what could I do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do here? I mean, this is the situation with our money. This is the situation with the banks.
The Fed has failed you. The banks have failed you. The government has failed you.
Yeah, we're in la la land. We're in another bubble. What are we supposed to do? We're going to offer some solutions.
Yeah. And so that's why, and we'll bring in Joan right now. Joan, you're a customer of Midas Gold Group. You are a big believer in what you called the rainbow, right? You've got gold.
Rainbow currency.
Yeah, you've got gold, silver, and platinum,
And palladium.
Look at you. Total rainbow currency over there. I love it. Now, we don't talk much about palladium or platinum. I do enjoy platinum, however, accepted as gifts anytime you'd like to hand it over. But why did you go to gold, Joan? And we'll just start there real quick, and then we'll go into the differences between gold and silver.
I think that gold, it sounds so monotonous. Everyone keeps saying it's a storage of wealth, but it has a lot of value in a very small, and I buy coins. And so that's something that I can tuck away. I can bury it in a neighbor's garden. It's not anywhere that anyone can come and get it from me. It's not in a bank. So when they start doing even more of the bail-ins, they can't take that away from me if it's not in a security vault.
That's right.
So you have to be careful of that. And I love the idea of being able to keep my wealth now because gold is the Federal Reserve is taking down their currency, period. And so if we want to have some sort of currency and have our own treasury minting our money, it has to be backed with something that has value. And gold, how many years has gold been a part of history and wealth?
No, thousands.
Long time.
Yeah.
Back to when Joe Biden was a little boy, I think, actually.
Versus, like you said before last show, Jen, the Federal Reserve note.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
real
The fern.
money versus currency.
The fern. Yes.
The fern,
The
that's right.
IOU. It's a note. It's not a dollar bill. It's a note. Dollar bill. Yeah.
Well, let's start with gold. I think that's a nice place to start. Everybody likes pretty gold. So, Ken, why don't you talk through some of the advantages of holding gold?
I look at gold as more of a monetary metal, more of a protection against a dollar that's losing tremendous value, like Joan said. And I also see gold as a way as being very convenient because it's not difficult to store. There's no third-party counter risk. I don't have to go somewhere to take my gold out of somewhere. I have it. I like the fact that it can be, like Joan said, a medium of exchange. Are we going to have to barter? We'll see. But it's good to be prepared. I like the fact that it's legal tender, the coins. And in my opinion, gold represents, for the amount of money that the government prints and borrows, it almost has a direct correlation to the price of gold. I mean, since 1971, every time the government doubles debt every 8 years or so, the price of gold doubles about every 7 years.
Follows along.
Yeah. And we talked about this last time. I mean, I don't really own gold. I don't think Joan does either for price. But if you look at all the money that's been printed and you look at how much debt we have, and if you believe the United States government, they said that they have 8,000 tons of gold. No one's seen it since the 60s, but that's what they say. Gold would have to be about $29,000 an ounce to balance all of this money printing and debt that we've seen over the last, 15, 20 years. So that's another reason why people should own gold, because it is a store of value, because it will reflect what the dollar loses. It's not so much that the gold price is going up, it's that the dollar price is going down. It used to take $1, it used to take $30, $35 at the beginning of the 70s to buy an ounce of gold. Now it takes over $2,300 Federal Reserve notes to own an ounce of gold.
And Joan, I'd ask you, since you're our special in-studio guest, as we're kind of going through the advantages and disadvantages of gold, what would you like to add on to that? You have gold, so you're the perfect person for us to talk to.
Well, there's a particular video blog or something. I don't know what they're called. I'm a Luddite.
It's okay. She used the Thomas Guide to get here, but we love that.
But he tells a quick scenario, and that if you take a dollar bill from 1920, 1925, and then you take 1 ounce of gold and you bury them both in your backyard. When you go to get that $1 bill from 1920 and you try to spend it today, what will you buy?
A gumball?
And what could you buy for that $1 bill back in 1920? You could buy your groceries for almost a month. You could buy some textiles to make clothing, Little House on the Prairie style, right?
I think they said that like $1 from that time period is probably worth about 3 or 4 cents today.
Oh, well, that's my point though, is to really simplify it.
Right.
Is that you go back to that dollar bill that you buried in 1920, and what can you buy with it now versus what you were, Little House on the Prairie, what you could buy enormous amounts of things with it at that point. But now you go back and you uncover that nugget of gold, that 1 ounce of gold. And now what can you buy with that gold?
$2,000 worth of stuff.
Over $2,000 worth.
And remember,
and
right, Joan, at that time, that 1 ounce of gold was worth about $20.
Yes.
Because you could go to the bank at that time and you can convert your paper dollars into gold. You gave them a $20 bill, they'd give you a $20 gold piece.
Yeah, or vice versa. You gave them your gold and they gave you an IOU, this much credit equal to the amount of gold that they weighed right in front of you. Yes.
Yeah. So it has become a store of value, and it has been that way throughout history. And I think that's a really great reason to own gold. Let's talk about some of the disadvantages, because Ken, we said we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the some of the disadvantages?
And the other advantages are privacy,
Of course.
and you have control, and you can get to your money, and you can monitor it yourself, and it's not under anybody else's watch. That's very important. I think the disadvantages of gold is, well, number one, you got to keep it safe. Number two, I don't want people to think about gold as a speculation, as a way that you're going to try to make a lot of money. I don't want people to be turned off about gold because they're looking at it that way. And gold doesn't pay dividends. I guess that's another, aspect of being a negative for gold for some investors. But I don't think that those are the reasons why people should be owning gold. It kind of goes back to the other reasons, like Joan was talking about, store of value. So I guess the main, disadvantages of owning gold is maybe you could make more money in more of a speculative investment, but you could also lose more.
We talk about the buckets, though. You want to have the wealth preservation bucket. That's what gold and precious metals really do. And this is the weekend that we celebrate America. For me, the one thing that I think we haven't added is that gold really just gives you freedom. It gives you a sense of security that is maybe outside of the government and the craziness that we've seen.
I don't want to sound biased, but I am. But I don't think there is a disadvantage to owning gold. Really.
Hey, you wrote it on the show notes.
Yeah,
okay?
I know.
You're like, disadvantage. I wanted to hear what you had to say, but I think you're right. You got to keep it safe. Yeah. That's number one. That's just a reality, not even a
it doesn't pay a dividend, and there could be a cost to keeping it safe, and maybe it's a little more inconvenient. Don't forget, paper is very convenient. That's why it's part of the system because, let's keep your money under the watch of the bank and under the watch of Wall Street because it's easy to move around. So I would just say maybe gold is just a little bit inconvenient, but I think that the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages when it comes to owning some gold. How do you feel about that, Joan? What would you say the disadvantage of gold?
The only disadvantage of gold is that some people just can't straight out afford to buy a 1 ounce coin. The idea of the coinage is really important because you have the gold or silver or anything else in that shaped coin.
Yep, in a coin form. As opposed to a piece of paper with a number stamped on it, 1 or 5 or 10, which doesn't mean anything because it only represents. Right. It is truly an IOU. It's a waiver.
It's fiat.
Fiat currency. Exactly right. Now, the gold that you can hold, it comes in, you can get it in bars, you can get it in coins. Joan likes to have it in coins, and you can find all of that information. MidasGoldGroup.com to check out the product catalog there. Our listener Joan is in studio with us. There's more up ahead. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. And our listener, Joan, is in studio. She lives in Los Angeles, California, wherever you are listening. Thank you so much for joining us. And before the break, we were talking about the advantages and just a few, maybe of the disadvantages or maybe inconveniences, more probably better put, of owning gold. Now it's on to silver. And guys, silver, I think, is sort of like, sadly, the redheaded stepchild. No offense, Ken Russo.
No offense taken, Jen.
We love ginger.
I love gingers too. Do you know, this is way off topic, but when I was a young kid, I prayed for red hair. That's all I really
You're
wanted.
probably like Danny Partridge.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, he was a cutie. But in terms of silver, we spend a lot of time talking about gold, but silver is more affordable and it still provides that hedge against inflation, the privacy, the security that precious metals can give you when you hold them at home. So Ken, let's start with you. Let's talk about the advantages of owning silver.
Yeah, and happy 4th of July again.
Yes.
I think, well, first of all, monetary, reasons to own silver. It is a store of value.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other reasons to own silver is it comes in small enough denominations where, that may be important, where bartering or some sort of small transactions may be needed in the future. We'll see. I also think that silver takes advantage of the industrial applications.
Talk more about that.
Well, I mean, silver next to oil is the second most industrial used commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, most of the silver goes into military applications, and then it also goes into aerospace and solar. So, Joan was even mentioning that a lot of electronic devices and computers, electric cars, it all has silver, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why she prefers silver. But I think that silver has been manipulated in price for decades.
How so?
And, well, the paper contracts, that trade on COMEX and these different futures exchanges, pretty much almost on a daily basis, it exceeds almost all of the silver that's like mined for the year or even available. It's like a joke. It doesn't even make sense. But the banks and the Wall Street banks have figured out a great way to rig markets. And also, maybe they want to keep the price suppressed because of industry. But regardless, I think they're losing grip on that. And the price of silver has been rising pretty dramatically in the last six months or so. And I think that people are demanding the delivery of their physical silver, many of these institutions, and it's not going to take much for them to lose grip of the price. And actually, the price of silver is about $3 higher in China than it is here. So a lot of these other countries are saying, okay, well, if you want to suppress the price of silver, great, we're going to buy it all.
Yep.
And that's what's happening.
They're going to gobble it all up. All right. Yeah. So, Joan, those were Ken's reasons for owning silver. You're so sweet. You always say you have the rainbow currency because you've got gold and silver and platinum and palladium. You've got it all covered. So why do you like having silver? What's the advantage of that for you?
I love the idea of being able to carry some of my coinage with me.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to a dollar bill, which is going to go poof.
Yeah.
Kaboom.
Yes, and people are looking for those things, those dollars, those bills. I love the idea that I know exactly what everything is worth. If I don't know for that day, for that particular size coin, I have the smaller coins, the smaller denominations also, Ken. What do I have?
You have some different minted. You like the government minted coins, usually like 1 ounce.
Yeah, but I also have, is it half or quarter?
You might have smaller coins when it comes to gold, but I think the smallest denomination when it comes to silver is probably 1 ounce.
And about how much is 1 ounce around for today?
Anywhere between $35 and $40, I would say, is the price to own an ounce of silver.
Wow, I haven't looked at it for a while. I haven't looked at it since it's like $23.
Congratulations, Joan.
Yeah. Well, don't forget. I think silver went from 23 to 32, like in a 6-month time frame recently. But
it's still something that you can take that with. It's not taking a coin of gold and putting a down payment on a car.
Right.
It's taking it, and it is legal tender according to our Constitution. And
so you can use it.
You can pay with it. Mm-hmm. And but how much are people paying for groceries today? It's insane.
Yeah.
That we may come to a point in between the old currency and the new currency, which is what we're waiting for, that we're going to need something that has some value. Mm-hmm. And I think that the denominations of silver, that is something that you can actually buy something with. You can go to the grocery store,
right? Consumer friendly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you need textiles to making clothes, if you need to buy equipment like for construction or doing anything that takes a modicum of work, which is a physical thing to do. It's not paper shuffling. But anything, you'll be able to use silver to purchase it because it's in such a usable amount.
Yeah.
Right.
And also with solar, Jen, I mean, you have the rest of the world and ourselves too, that, the go green sort of thing. And the solar use is expanding dramatically.
Huge.
And there's a lot of silver that goes into solar panels. They're not accounting for that really. Either that or they're lying about it. So it's one or the other. So we're going to see, but there's definitely not enough silver out there to support, like Joan was saying, all of the industrial uses. And silver's been $50 twice in its history. So if you think to yourself, well, silver's still just a fraction of the price of what it was back in 1980, believe it or not.
Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, how does that even make sense?
First of all, impossible. Second of all, is we know that with the stock market, that the powers that should not be, meaning the Federal Reserve, they are trillionaire whales. And they go in and they manipulate the market and they manipulate the types of things that we are talking about today, precious metals.
Do you think that the gold and silver market someday, Joan, will be allowed to trade based on its own value and worth and based on its supply and demand?
I think that it's going to be very soon. I don't think that we're going to even wait out maybe 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
I think that it's going to be here pretty quickly, and I think that there will be some unleashing of silver and gold value because the stock market will come down. Isn't that what happens? They crash the stock market. If the dollar is deteriorating as quickly as it is, they crash the stock market. So then what happens? Now you can't even have your stock certificates. They won't give them to you, or they say we will not handle your account anymore. That's what they've said to my mother.
Well, that's because you don't have any control of it. That's the reason
don't
why.
lose it.
But if
That's
you
right.
have a custodial account and you're holding on to these stocks for such a long time before you ever went to these companies, and you say, I know that times are not good right now. Please, I want to have stock certificates saying that when the computers go out, when the stock market crashes, I have rights to a percentage of that company if it comes back online.
Proof.
And they won't do it. And so my point is that if you have gold, if you have silver, and the stock market crashes on something that you invested in a precious metal, they have taken that nugget that they mined, those companies, and these whales, the Federal Reserve whales, they have come and they have sold that same little piece that they have in a vault somewhere or in the mining holdings, and they have sold that same piece over and over, maybe 1,000 times. Wow. I wonder, more than 10 times, hundreds of times, thousands of times. You go to collect that piece of silver, that piece of gold, they're going to say, oh, we don't have that for you. Because they're going to have, who knows, 1,000 people coming for that same little nugget. They have sold and resold
over and over
resold
again.
Over in the paper.
So you bring it out of
market.
circulation when you bring it home to your house, right?
Exactly.
Real quick, because we've only got about a minute left here, I do want to ask, because are the disadvantages the same of silver, gold? Because you promised the disadvantages here, Ken. Anything that is
the disadvantage of
gold.
silver, it's just really heavy and sometimes tougher to move around. Yeah. But based on where we are today and based on the gold to silver ratio, I think that silver offers a tremendous upside potential in this particular market. But a mix is always good. 2 horses in the race is better than one. Be diversified within your precious metals as well.
Yeah. 10 seconds for you, Joan. Anything else to add?
I went to Ken for silver.
Yeah.
I wound up doing other things, but silver.
That was where you started.
Because I could use that as legal
anywhere.
tender.
I love it. All right. So this is why it's time for you to call Midas Gold Group. Get yourself some gold and silver. Bring it home. 855-322-4653. 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. You can also go to the website. Always check out the product catalog. MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, or 855-322-GOLD. Joan, thanks so much for being in studio.
Thanks, Joan.
Happy 4th of July weekend to all of you. Thanks for joining us. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.